In this tutorial, we'll be walking through the process of retargeting animation from a DeepMotion Animate 3D default character onto a hyper-realistic MetaHuman character in Unreal Engine. The animations that I will be importing are generated from the DeepMotion Animate 3D web service. Animate 3D is an AI-powered motion capture solution by DeepMotion that turns videos that you can find online or capture from a personal camera and turns them into a 3D animation, ready to download in a few minutes. It's free to sign up, with free monthly recurring animation time and unlimited downloads. Okay, moving on to our MetaHuman walkthrough. For step 1, you are going to need access to MetaHuman. Currently, MetaHuman is in early access, but you can request access from Epic. We'll be covering the MetaHuman creator briefly, but if you're looking for more information on this, there are a lot of resources out there that you can easily find. Once you have your MetaHuman access, you will have a large variety of characters to choose from. You will also have your own personal library of characters that you can customize as well. For step 2, go ahead and select your MetaHuman character and load it in. Then press Next. Once your character is loaded in, you can start customizing the base character with things like hairstyle, eyebrows, height, and much more. Go ahead and play with it. Once you're satisfied with your character customization, go back to your library by clicking My MetaHumans. Once you do this, everything will automatically be saved. Once you see it saved to your library, step 3 will be to open Quixel Bridge, which is a free tool for asset management. Once open, you'll see there is a MetaHuman tab on the left. Go to the My MetaHumans, which will be your personal library of custom characters. Go ahead and select the character that you'd like to use, and we'll proceed to step 4, which is to set the MetaHuman download settings. Go ahead and take a look at your settings and make sure they're good to go. You can click Set to Default if you're unsure of what the settings should be. Under Models, make sure that the MetaHuman includes the U asset. You can also select the U asset plus source asset that can be opened with Maya. I'll be downloading just the U asset in this case. And finally, select the resolution you want to download and then click the download button. Once your character is downloaded, we are going to export the character to Unreal Engine. So for step 5, we are going to check the export settings. In the Export Target tab, make sure that the export target is set to Unreal Engine and make sure that the engine version matches the one that you're currently using. If you do not have this plugin set up already, you are going to want to point the plugin location to your Unreal Engine directory. I have also set the default project to the project I just created for my MetaHuman character. Okay, now go back. Now you can export. If you go over to Unreal Engine, you can see that it is loading. Once it loads in, you may experience some pop-up messages. These will show if you don't have the project properly set up to run the MetaHuman character. You can simply click the Enable Missing Plugins/Project settings and it will attempt to set these automatically for you. Once you click through all of these notices, you will be prompted to restart Unreal Engine, so go ahead and do that. Once your project opens back up, you can now see we have a new MetaHuman folder that has successfully imported. Clicking in, you can find your character and open it up by selecting the blueprint, which will then load your MetaHuman character into the scene. With our character loaded, you can see how it looks and then can easily drag and drop it into your scene. I'm just going to place it in the middle and rotate it to face the camera. Now we're going to pause here and go explore creating an animation for our MetaHuman character using Animate 3D in step 8. Go ahead and log into your Animate 3D account. You can sign up for a free account and generate up to 30 seconds of free animation time every month. Once logged in, go to Create Animation, then make sure you select Default Character. Next, you're going to want to choose your video that you'd like to generate animation from. Be sure to review the video capture guidelines below to generate the best results possible. Once you upload your video, you'll want to review your animation settings and make sure everything is set up correctly. The important things to note here is that the FBX output is turned on, as this will be the animation file that we will be using in Unreal Engine. Next, you'll want to turn on Root Joint at Origin. This is a new setting that was specifically created to help retarget animations in Unreal Engine. This will place the root joint at the origin of the character instead of at the pelvis of the character. You can see here that MetaHuman characters have the root joint at the origin, which we need to account for in our animation export. Another setting you might want to consider is the physics filter setting, which will help prevent your character's mesh from intersecting, such as the arm going through the side of the body, or something along those lines. Other options that you can explore with a subscription include animation smoothing, which will help remove jitters, foot locking settings for better foot contact depending on the motion, and speed multiplier, which will allow you to capture slow-mo videos. Face tracking is an available option, however, it is not currently compatible with MetaHuman characters, and it is something that we'll continue to explore as MetaHuman progresses. Once you have all of your settings set, it is time to create your animation. After it loads in, you can preview your animation live in the previewer. If you're satisfied with the animation, you can go ahead and click Download Animations and choose the FBX file and save it to your computer. Now that we have our animation, let's go back to Unreal Engine and import it into our project. Under Content Browser, Add/Import, you're going to want to create a new folder to hold your animations in. I'm going to go ahead and name mine Animate 3D. Now go ahead and navigate to where you downloaded the Animate 3D animation. It should be a zip file. Go ahead and extract the files. You will have two different files, one in a Tpose and one without a Tpose. It doesn't really matter which we import in this instance, so I'm going to go ahead and import the one without the Tpose. Once you drag and drop the animation into Unreal Engine, you will see the FBX import options window appear. Here, you're going to want to make sure that the skeletal mesh and import mesh are both selected. You are, of course, going to want to make sure the import animation is selected and set skeleton to none. This will create a new skeleton for this animation. Once the settings are set, you can now import the animation. You will be able to see the animation under the Import tab. The next step is to retarget the Animate 3D animation to our MetaHuman character. To start, let's go ahead and open up our Animate 3D character and go to the Skeleton tab in the top right. Let's also go back to our MetaHuman character and open up its skeleton as well. To do this, go down to the Components tab and click on Body. From there, you will go over to the Details tab and go down to Mesh. Under Mesh, you will see Skeletal Mesh and double-click to open it. I'm just going to move my tabs together so we can easily go back and forth to show the comparisons between the two. You can see that the characters have a similar hierarchy. In order to do the retargeting, we are going to need to map both of these characters to the humanoid rig so that they both have a similar joint structure. To do this, you're going to go to the Retarget Manager and go down to Set Up Rig. From the drop-down, you're going to select the humanoid rig, then click Auto Map. This will take care of some of the mapping of the joints. But as you can see, it didn't turn out very accurate for us, so instead of fixing each joint manually, we have provided a bone mapping file for easy retargeting. You can get the bone mapping file at this URL. It's also in the description and the comments of this video. Once you download the bone mapping file, you're going to want to copy it into your project folder. You will do this by navigating to the folder location. I named mine Animate 3D before, and you're going to just copy over the file with root into this folder. Once you move it into this folder, it should show up under your Add/Import location. Once you see it, let's go back to our Animate 3D character skeleton view. From here, click on Load under the Retarget Manager, and you should see the bone mapping file. Click on it to load it in. Now you can see that the joint names should now be correctly mapped. You can also check the Advanced tab as it has the mapping for the fingers. Okay, great. Now that we have this set up, let's go to our MetaHuman character. For the MetaHuman character, go ahead and follow the same process. Under the Retarget Manager, under Select Rig, choose Select Humanoid Rig. Because MetaHuman is created by Epic, we shouldn't have any issues with the auto mapping process, so no extra steps are needed. Next, we need to make sure that our Animate 3D pose matches the MetaHuman pose. As you can see, the Animate 3D pose is in the T pose and the MetaHuman pose is in an A pose. I'm going to change the MetaHuman A pose into a T pose because it's easier to get them both to match compared to trying to match both into an A pose. To do this, go to your MetaHuman character and go to the skeleton tree. We'll want to click on the joint that we want to move, which is going to be the shoulder or the upper arm joint, and we're going to want to straighten out everything. I've found changing the location rotation to 0 works well. We are also going to want to straighten out the elbow or the lower arm joint as well. Setting this rotation to 0 also works well. You can see that it is now pretty straight. I do see that the arm is still pointing down just a bit, and we're going to want to get that as straight across as possible. So I'm going to click on the upper arm again and found rotating it to 7 degrees straightened it out. Now you'll also see that the arm is twisted a bit. The hand isn't pointing downward, so let's go ahead and rotate that to roughly minus 25 degrees. You can see that the hand now looks more natural pointing downward. Great, so this looks good. So now I'm going to want to do the same thing for the other arm. So click on the other upper arm, straighten it out to 0 degrees, then the lower arm again at 0 degrees. The upper arm rotating up 7 degrees on the y-axis to fix to pointing down. And then the upper arm again rotating around to negative 25 degrees on the x-axis to fix the side rotation. Now, if you also want to get the correct finger animation, you're going to want to straighten out all the fingers into a default position. Animate 3D currently has procedurally generated hand motions, however, you may want those to translate over to your character. We are thinking about doing some sort of finger tracking in the future, so this step will be important if and when we implement that. I have found changing the finger joint z-axis to 0 helps flatten out the hand. This process is going to take a few minutes, so go ahead and skip ahead to step 18 if you want to skip the hands. Once we're finished modifying this pose, go back to the Retarget Manager and click on Modify Pose, then Use Current Pose. This will save this pose as the default retarget pose for the MetaHuman skeleton. To wrap up the retargeting settings, there are a few things that you'll want to take care of. The first thing is to make sure that both characters have a preview mesh. Under the Preview Scene Settings and Mesh, there will be a button that will allow you to do this if the preview is not already set. Next, we are going to want to set the correct translation retargeting mod. To do this, for MetaHuman, you're going to want to go to the skeleton tree, click on Options, and click on Show Retargeting Options. You can see here that a lot of the joints are animation relative, but we are going to need to change it to a different mod. The reason for this is that our Animate 3D character has different proportions than the MetaHuman character. We want most of the joints to take the translation data from the spine pose instead of from the animation. But we do still need the translation animation data on the pelvis. So what we're going to do is to collapse the skeleton hierarchy below the pelvis. Keep the root and the pelvis translation retargeting settings as is, but everything below that, the spine, thigh R, and thigh L, we can select. Then right-click and then select Recursively Set Translation Retargeting Skeleton. After you set this, the translation data will be taken from the skeleton instead of the animation. Now that our skeletons match, we are ready to retarget our Animate 3D animation onto our MetaHuman character. Navigate to your animation under Imported Files in the Content browser. Right-click it and select Retarget Anim Assets and duplicate Anim Assets and Retarget. The Select Skeleton window will pop up. In here, you will need to select the correct mesh that you'd like to retarget your animation to. In this case, it's going to be our MetaHuman character. If you ended up selecting Preview Mesh correctly, you will see a thumbnail here of both the source and the target characters. If you don't see it, that means you should go back to your skeleton and fix this. Once you're ready to go, you're going to want to select Change in the bottom right of the window, which will allow you to select your destination folder for the retargeted animation. I'm creating a new folder named Retargeted. Press OK, then go down to Retarget. Now the animation should be retargeted to your skeleton. Now that we have the animation retargeted, we are going to want to put the animation on our character in our scene. The easiest way to do this is to create a level sequence. Navigate to Cinematics, then Add Level Sequence. From here, I'm going to create a new sequence. I'm naming mine Test Sequence. Then click Save. You can find this new sequence by going to Content in the Content browser, then drag and drop your MetaHuman character from the World Outliner and into the sequencer. Once loaded, we can now animate the character. We don't need to animate the control rig, so let's go ahead and delete those. Now we can navigate to our new retargeted folder in the Content browser and drag and drop the retargeted animation onto Body in the sequencer. Once you add it to Body, you can see that our character is now moving. And just like that, my MetaHuman is now doing boxing. Now, if you want to add multiple animations to the same character, you're going to want to follow the same process as step 11. Navigate to your animation file on your computer and drag and drop it into the Content browser under your animation folder you had set up. Mine is Animate 3D. The FBX import options will be slightly different this time. Now that we have the skeleton set up, we can select it from Skeleton. Once you check all the other settings, click Import All. Once you have your animation imported, you'll want to right-click and go down again to Retarget Anim Assets and duplicate Anim Assets and Retarget. The rest of these options are the same for retargeting. Select your MetaHuman character in the Skeleton Select, then change your folder and then click Retarget. You should now see this new animation in your retargeted folder. Just drag and drop it into your sequencer timeline to use this new animation. Now, if you want to have multiple MetaHuman characters in the same scene, you can actually share the animation data between the two since we already did the initial setup. Drag and drop your character into your scene. I'm going to go ahead and change his orientation a little bit here. Select your new MetaHuman character and drag and drop it into the sequencer. As last time, we will delete the control rig for this character. On the body, click the plus track, go to Animation, and you're going to want to search for the one that you already retargeted earlier. The animation is the same, but we can just play with it. Let's turn this guy around and they can spar a bit. All right, that's it for our MetaHuman walkthrough. We're looking forward to seeing your creations. Feel free to leave any questions in the comments below.